I want to dig deeper into this area of brand desire, and I'm gonna, Stefan, you and I have known each other for quite a while, but I'm going to ask you to pretend that we're just meeting for the first time, and ask you to describe yourself. But I want you to do it only naming 5 brands.
I'm incredibly curious. So I think Wikipedia, Google, not so much only for its search, but also because I now have like two of these Google speakers in my house that I talk with a lot because I come across a word I don't know or something I don't know or a bird I see outside my window that I don't know. I would say Patagonia. That is about the outdoors. Let's stick with Sonos as a brand that links really to my home life and my family life. Peloton, which is a brand I spend a lot of time with these days.
I want to ask you about another type of brand in your life, and this would be a brand from your childhood. Is there a brand that you grew up with, a brand, something that just was very important to you back then that has, whether or not you still use it, has significant meaning or emotional connection or brings back certain memories in your life?
MTV.
MTV. It's a great one. Why is that?
When I think about MTV and into MTV coming, let's say, into my life, I had left my parents' house and I was really enjoying my newfound freedom a lot. MTV also did something that I will never forget, which I think is just incredibly fantastic, is that they wanted to be on 24/7, but of course they didn't have content to be on 24/7. So they did this thing, what they put on at night, starting like 1 or 2 a.m. And it was called landscape television. So they would put a camera under a plane or a helicopter or whatever and fly across northern Sweden or Scotland or southern Spain or whatever. And if I would come back home from uh, a night of drinking with my friends, and uh, we would be in we had this communal space, and which also was our kitchen, and landscape television would be on, and we would watch landscape television.
Wow, MTV is what a brand. I mean, I remember when MTV came out and it was so breakthrough, and all of a sudden you got to meet these bands through their videos, and I could still remember some of the iconic the first videos. Like I'll start naming them, but that will be weird.
But to your point, sorry to interrupt, but to your point, I think that's actually a third really important thing that it did for me. Much like what TikTok does now, it opens up this incredible can of creativity, right? If you spend half an hour on TikTok, right, which I do every now and then because I'm just mind boggled. MTV was really indeed opening up a similar type of outlet for creativity with the videos that bands were making. It was really spectacular. And then of course there was Christiane Bakker, who was one of the first VJs in Europe, who I was completely in love with. But we all were.
So aside from her and some of the other things that you mentioned, what are some of the things that you think they did strategically? I mean, they launched this incredible music revolution that never existed before. What do you think the leaders of that brand and the folks who ran MTV were doing right back then, with your knowledge now as a brand strategy leader?
If you think about the three angles that I just mentioned, right? From given my background and my phase in life that I was when MTV came into my life, those are very deep emotional territory. Taps into fundamental needs and emotions, like for example the newly found freedom that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
If you can become an icon for that, then your brand relationship can't really get much stronger than that. And I think, like in the words that I know, that I would know now, that I would apply to it now, given my I've got now 25 or so years of experience as a marketing person. I think the power was really the power of authenticity, right? So it was really like, this is they really wanted to do this. I mean, and this is there was really nothing felt contrived or forced or even thought about for that much necessarily,
True.
right? It was just raw, authentic. We want to celebrate music and artists and
Yeah.
creativity. Yeah.
But what about this feeling? I'm wondering if you guys felt that. What about this emotional feeling of knowing that next thing that could come makes you high, right? Like for example, if we knew that in the 90s, let's say Backstreet Boys had a new video coming out, we could sit and wait and wait and wait for like the next one, and there you had it.
Yeah.
So it was almost like Christmas. You could sit and wait for that cool video coming up. And I think I feel the same when I'm watching like short videos on Facebook and then TikTok. It's like, when is that video coming that's giving you that rush?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting point also, I think, because at the time, the sequence of those videos and you would attribute that to the VJ, to one of those people that was like supposedly what wasn't the case. They were just the figurehead, right? Like the talking head in your camera, but or in your screen. Today, that's being replaced by algorithms now, right? Where they talk TikTok or what's the next song that you hear on Spotify, and uh, so there's a that is of course a really interesting revolution where my oldest daughter Sarah the other day, I don't know how we got to talk about it, but she was really excited. She literally said like, no, it's really cool. My my face my sorry my Spotify algorithm is really smart now. It knows exactly what I like. Training a little monkey kind of thing.
Oh
To
man.
give you these rushes all the time, right?
Yeah. So
Non-stop.
because she was sending me a song and said, you should I think you'll like this. And I said, gee, where did you find, I'm being my age, I asked her, how did you find that? She's like,
It appeared.
so my algorithm is super smart.
Oh man.
Yeah, so that's really very different. That's actually a really great metaphor for what or metaphor example of what personalization really means, right? From relying on somebody else that you like or for whatever reason to pick things for you to actually like a machine you can train.
Wow. I'm curious, Stephan, as you think about the values and the core ideals that you bring into the work that you do today, what are some of the things that you learned from mentors across your career that you believe really influence what you strive to do today?
One of the things that I somebody once told me, something I guess I intrinsically knew, but it really brought a point home, and I think about that a lot, and that is every great person on your team is a volunteer, and it helps me a lot to think the other way around and to think, especially for good people, they you should treat them as a volunteer, because they can literally work anywhere else, right? So. Um, and yeah, they get paid, and there's small or big company doesn't matter. It comes with its benefits, but people need to, especially in a leadership role, you need to make sure that the good people have a reason to go to work every day that is beyond having to pay the mortgage or saving for their retirement.
Well, I always remember that about working with you, as your style and your just the way you approach your team is just so sincere all the time, and you're always looking out for their best interest, which I always appreciated.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be look not selective. I'm always gonna be sincere, and I'll try to. Or I think I don't really have a choice. I'm always authentic, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how to not be, but
It's not very common.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
The big companies.
Yeah, in big companies, I've heard I get that feedback often, but I really honestly, for me, that is effortless. Where I got in trouble myself, and that was in the earlier part of my careers, is where I tried to be somebody I wasn't, right? So
Right.
I got into a leadership role and I thought, okay, so now this means I need to do this or I need to behave in a certain way or whatever. Then things came crashing down and I completely lost it. One of my favorite sayings is that the older I get, the more I start to look like myself, and that is that is arguably the biggest kind of source of strength that I have. Is just in being myself. Not that I'm so great, but it just.
But you're you. Yeah.
But I'm you. I'm me.
Yeah.
I'm not you. I'm me. I'm me, and I can also only, to be honest, it's the only way to do jobs like the one I'm doing now. It's just it takes too much energy from me to try and be somebody else.
Yeah. Wow.
I can't do that.
Wow.